Hello, and welcome to Of All the Places, brought to you by 5518 Designs. I get to hang out with my girl, Katie K. Woo! And the man with the master plan, Mr. Ben.
The Juice Morris. That's
correct. Ben the Juice Morris.
Mm-hmm.
The Juice.
Yes. Katie.
Oh, John.
It's me giving you the Katie.
I know, you're doing the me. You're
Yes.
being me. We've body swapped. We Freaky Friday'd.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Katie.
John.
Tell me, let's just, for the next half hour, can we just say each other's names? Back
Yeah,
and forth?
John.
Okay, we're nailing it.
Yeah, we're doing such a good job.
Who have we got going on today?
Okay. We have a celeb.
We do.
That's how I feel. And I believe it's true.
Are you gonna fangirl out?
Yeah. Like insanely hard. We actually today's guest is our first ever guest who has a Wikipedia page.
Nice.
So that should tell you I'm like right on the money with she's a celeb.
Yeah.
But we get the distinct honor of chatting with Montana politician Zooey Zephyr.
Zooey Zephyr.
I can't believe it.
Yes, I had the honor of meeting her. This past legislative session. And that's when I got my fanboying out of the way.
Right. See, I haven't had that yet, so all bets are off for me.
Have you guys ever met a celebrity? Like it's weird because you have nothing to say, but you want to meet them so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was one of those where like, hey, I'm John. It's really great to meet you. Like, thanks for kicking ass and doing what you do up here. I really, I know you're passionate. You're great. And then after that, you're like, okay, go get him, Tiger. See you later. Like, there's no other like.
But
so
you still want to keep talking.
I know. I just want to
I
I just want to stand next to you. Is that okay for a while?
Yeah, I just want to be in your orbit, please.
Can we hold hands?
I know.
Is that weird?
So I'm hoping that's how I act today.
Well, yeah, I probably won't. Yeah, we'll see what I do, but it's probably not going to be much.
No,
I just am going to be a bit starstruck, but she's doing amazing work in the Missoula community, but then just the Montana community in a broader sense. And it's been incredibly inspiring to see over the last, several years when she's been working up there. So
yeah, and she's had to fight for some really like deeply meaningful bills, and she's had to stave off a whole bunch of bills that can be seen as not helping her constituency a lot. So she's trying to navigate the entire state legislators, and the whole building is wild. So,
yeah, it turns out I don't know anything about that.
Well, we're all public school students, so we don't know much about much.
Uh-huh.
So it'll be interesting to see like how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'll be into that.
She does it all fearlessly with authenticity,
Yeah.
It's just...
I mean, if we just Google her or Wikipedia her, there's a lot of inspiration to be had that she gives away. And I think that's going to rub off.
I know. I'm really excited to chat with her today.
Nice. Well, I'm excited. Let's get her here.
Oh, baby.
Ladies and gentlemen, State Legislator Zooey Zephyr.
Of all the places, of all the places, of all the places, why here, of all the places.
Zoe, when was it the last time you've been to Butte?
Oh my goodness. Last time I stopped and really hung out was Pride. I think it was not Pride this year, Pride last year.
Okay.
Was the last time that I...
And you spoke at that, right?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
I ended up being late to speak at it because my car ran out of gas.
No way.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
I had missed the Phillipsburg exit and then was like, oh crap, tried to turn around, couldn't make it. So I had to send somebody back to
Oh, no.
the tank of gas. It was really embarrassing.
Yeah, our
happened to the
keynote
best.
speaker
Yeah.
tonight is
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
stuck somewhere in Peaburg.
Exactly. I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, wow. Well, I think that to get things started, it might be best to maybe introduce yourself to everybody who listens. How does Zooey Zephyr introduce herself to the world?
My name's Zooey Zephyr.
Start with the main
easy.
points.
I have the distinct honor of representing Missoula, Montana in the Montana House of Representatives. The district I represent is the University of Montana itself, that area, and then sort of the student living section as you move through the U district, and then west into what's called the slant streets, single family homes, stuff like that, and a little bit sort of right in the center of Missoula. And Montana native, born in the Magic City, Billings, and which I know we could talk about. And then, I think not your traditional path to politics for me, but happy to have not fallen into it, but sort of chased it fervently when I felt the need to be there. So,
ooh, that's a point I wanted to bring up. When did you? And you actually have the crown of being our first like Wikipedia guest.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
We're really excited to talk about your Wikipedia
we'll
page.
try to get it on the page. So
Yeah,
it says, in 2025, guests on Of All the Places podcast.
No, but what I was thinking of is what I found on your Wikipedia page is an interesting factoid that you have a degree in creative writing.
Yeah.
When is the children's book coming out?
Well, the children's book already came out.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so far behind.
So it's part of it is that it's under my dead name prior to transition.
Okay.
My undergraduate capstone, I was doing a double degree in entrepreneurship. This was like a focus of the business degree, sort of launching your own businesses, and then the creative writing degree. And I sort of joint capstoned, where I worked with my business school colleagues, was to launch the capstone was to launch a business, quote unquote, and run it for a year. It was a year-long capstone, and then close out the accounts, see how you did, and sort of what lessons you learned from launching a business. Okay. And one of the guys who was in that group was a dad of two real young children who was recently diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And so the capstone project we decided to do was a children's book explaining multiple sclerosis to kids whose parents might have been diagnosed, because it's a disease that impacts primarily women, but the big age range it hits is folks who tend to be right in the having young kids sort of age range. And so that children's book came out.
No way.
Yeah.
I was just fishing for something to talk about.
Oh, look at it.
Wow.
Yeah.
All
There you
right.
go.
Anyone look at that?
Yeah, that's wild.
I need to get it republished under my my actual name.
Yeah.
So-
Well, there's so many stories to tell out in the world.
Yeah.
And, like that would be a great skill set to tap into.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was lovely. There was a period of time where I went to college in the University of Washington. There was a period of time where if you were diagnosed with multiple sclerosis at Seattle Children's, and you had kids who were, I think, under 5, it was part of your like diagnosis packet for a brief period of time. So, it was really an honor to get to do it. And I remember, speaking of like important moments, we finished that project and we closed out and we donated, everything to research on multiple sclerosis.
Cool. From
From that project. And the father who became this like CEO of the group for that year, he turned to all of us afterwards as we were having our like closing dinner, and he was like, if we don't do anything else in our lives, if we sort of handshake and fade into the mist after this, we will have done something worth doing, and we will have like changed the world for the better, even in this small way. And I think about that a lot in my approach to politics, and honestly, the approach to sort of everything I do and parenting and the work my wife does. It's all sort of in that ethos, as if you faded tomorrow, will have this made the change a little more, made the world a little better.
Man, that's that's perfect.
Would it be enough?
Yeah. Like, are you proud of the work that you're currently doing? That's a really cool kind of segue into creativity kind of informing what you do now. I think that legislation and like policy making and things like that has a significant degree of like creativity involved. Do you agree with that in your experience?
Yeah, I think, policymaking, it's so interesting being in the legislature. On the one hand, you have to know policy. Like you have to be able not to just have good ideas for what it would mean to make a better world, but how to turn those ideas into policies that aren't, full of gaping holes that people can exploit. I remember catching an Uber with someone and came up, I was a politician, and the driver's like, it's the housing. The housing is a problem right now. We're struggling with housing, and I wish we could da-da-da. And I was like, well, here's some policies that we did in Montana to sort of increase the supply of housing, reduce property taxes. This is our tack. And he was like, yeah, but BlackRock's just going to come in and buy up all the homes. And these companies are just going to come in, and we should do something about those companies who are buying it. And I was like, hell yeah, brother. Like I'm with you. What does that look like as a law?
Yeah.
And how do you make sure that like the family who retires and is like, we've got some extra money. I really want to build a set of houses to, help increase supply here. How are you not housing them? How do you make sure that like ADUs are not getting hit? And, this is an example with one singular lane, and we're not even talking about like tax policy or stuff like that, but that becomes an avenue where creativity is really needed.
Right.
And then on the third sort of axis is you'll get people who are like, I've read all the court cases. I've read all the political theory. I'm ready for this. And I'm like, yes, but have you watched Survivor? because you are going to go into a place where the best policy doesn't bubble to the top.
Mm-hmm.
Your relationships with people who, you love but are deeply frustrated with, and who you hate but need to work well with, and sort of both ends of that spectrum, you all need to come together and sort of decide this is the thing that we're going to put in here. And that requires a level of creativity in addition to the problem-solving creativity that I think you were alluding to,
right.
In terms of how do you create a policy that's going to affect the kind of change you want.
How do you do all of this?
Just be really, really good.
You got to.
Yeah.
All the respect in the world for what's going on.
And I think the good news is, I think we think of politicians in part because of how we campaign as like, I'm Zooey Zephyr and I want you to vote for me. Vote for me. I will do the thing. I will change the world. I will push these kinds of policies. And, my name's on the ballot for my district and someone else's is on the ballot in their district. But when you get in office, it's actually really a team sport. And so, I don't know a ton about wolf management. Well, I certainly did not. I know a lot more now, but I certainly did not going into the legislature. I knew a little about conservation, broad sweeping things about conservation and things I wanted to see and things I didn't want to see. But sort of the intricacies of how FWP manages wolf populations, what the fights are, what the Republican tack is on sort of why this number needs to be lower than it is and whatnot. And so there are moments where you are, I'm often playing cornerback, so to speak, in the legislature, where you're like, okay, how are we going to stop this crazy thing? Hey, you over here doing this positive policy. I'm going to stop this, and I'm going to get these folks to pivot to you, and then I need you to run with the ball. And you sort of combat that question of needing to do it all by recognizing, you're going to have to hand off the ball. And the difficulty is, we saw 1,800 bills proposed last session. It's 1,800 balls that you're trying to juggle and pass off to people. And you do your best and you win a lot and you lose a lot. And I used a sports metaphor, so I'll continue it. You have a short memory.
Yeah,
because if you beat yourself up over every loss or get, caught up in the joy of every win, there will be horrible things that pass by you while you're daydreaming.
Oh, I this last session, I went up there twice. Saw you in action. It's
Yeah.
pretty psyched to meet you then. But I think in the Senate, one of the state senators, you guys won't believe this, kept all of the bills on his desk. Did you see this?
Yeah. We had someone in the House who
4,000
does that as well. Yeah.
proposed bills and 1,800 got to the floor or something like that. And I'm like, in 3 months' time?
Yeah. 90 working days.
How?
It's well, so
gosh.
you want to add to the craziness. We talk about government not working and like, I could write a dissertation that was higher than that stack of bills on my frustrations with government. But one of the things that drives me crazy is, so we vote on those bills on the House floor. You know, a bill gets proposed, it gets vetted, it goes to a committee. There's a hearing on the committee. There's 20-ish committees. And you are on 2. Maybe if you're in appropriations, you're in 1 subsection and you're maybe not even on a policy committee. You hear and you debate the bills that are in your committee. But on the House floor, we had between, I would say 10 on like the normal cadence, between 10 and 20 bills a day. And on the worst days, right before transmittal, I think we saw 90.
Wow.
Each of those bills, between 4 and 50 pages. As a legislator, I learn what bills are going to be debated on Wednesday. If we're hearing it on Wednesday and voting on it on Wednesday, I learn about it Tuesday at 6 p.m.
You gotta be kidding.
And that's in addition to then at 8 a.m. that morning, on 8 a.m. Wednesday morning, I have a committee meeting from 8 a.m. to noon. So I don't have Wednesday morning to do that. I have to prep for the bills that are coming on Wednesday morning to my committee because I have to ask questions. I have to make sure I know, okay, what kind of witnesses are they going to bring in? Okay, they're going to bring in this sham doctor from Texas, and I need to make sure that I've got the things lined up to counteract that. Or, you know, the insurance agency is coming in to say this about, you know, how hard it is being, Northwest Energy or whatnot. You have to then find the time to read God knows how much. And so that's where that team sport becomes an aspect of it as well. You turn to someone and say, you were on that committee. Who showed up? What were the questions? What are the flashpoints here? And they'll say, section 2. Read section 2, that's the flashpoint.
Oh.
And then you go to section 2 and you read it, and your caucus is prepping you. But it's an impossible task, and the impossibility of it is deeply frustrating. And the impossibility of it is how so much heinous stuff sneaks through.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because
it's an insane amount of work, you know, like every single day. You're like every week you're presented with all that stuff. Like it's not possible to like fully immerse in every single bill and know every key point and know what they're trying to sneak in or not sneak out, you know, like.
And you hear like one of the piece of advice you get is like, if you want a bill to go down, you say the words, "This is a simple bill," because then everyone's like, "Hey, hold on a second, what is this bastard trying to do?" But one of the ways a bill gets through is if people don't see what it's doing, and like, so you have to. We spend a lot of time being like, okay, this is a simple revision bill. It's a cleanup bill. And it's like, okay, no, we have to look. Someone wanted this. No one thought, oh, you know, the ands should be ampersands. And that's really what we are spending. That's why the lobbyists are here. And it's like, no, there's something here. We have to figure out what it is and if it's actually going to help people. And it shouldn't be that hard, but it's exhausting work. It takes a lot.
Well, that's the catch, is like every single bill that even gets proposed, like there's value and merit in that. One of your constituents was like, this is valuable enough for me to raise it to that level. And for you to be bombarded with this tidal wave of stuff that just mires you down, like obviously everybody wants to like put their time and effort into each one because of that innate value.
I love your optimism. I love that beautiful,
you're crushing me.
That beautiful note about the constituents have come up with these bills and said, these are so important. There's so many groups nationally who are writing these bills. And it is it is not, Bob and Mary for several bills. It is, Bob Mary Smith Incorporated out of, Nashville, Tennessee, who have run this bill in 25 other states, and they want to convince you that XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, I think of like the Montana film tax credit. We spent a lot of time, and I was the deciding vote to kill that bill, then the deciding vote to resurrect that bill, and then amend that bill. And like, we spent a lot of time saying, okay, we passed these film tax credits, and then that got us Yellowstone. But that also, we don't need to be giving handouts to major studios.
Yeah.
Like if they want to film a project, pay your fair share.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do it on the backs of our tax dollars. But we do want small indie artists to come here and do that. If you are saying, hey, we've got a small situation, we want to run these documentaries about Montana, we want to do XYZ, that's who we should be helping, because that actually takes our grad students, our film students, and it keeps them here. That localizes an economy, as opposed to Paramount or whoever swooping in saying, thanks for the $30 million, off we go. And so you have to figure out, did Paramount draft this? Even if Paramount didn't draft this, were they whispering in the ear of someone to get it, to have a hole big enough for them to fly through? And that's what takes so much time and energy.
So now that you've killed my dreams,
Yes.
and that's perfect. Appreciate that.
I still believe in politics too, which is what's crazy. So I'm like, it's beautiful and I love it, but also.
So I was curious, with this insurmountable amount of bills proposed, what ratio do you think is good-hearted, local people proposing bills that will help everybody, and what percentage is devious corporations under the guise of whatever?
Oh man. So I'm going to split it into three, one more from that. So I think you've got constituent-driven things, which can be good and can be, I'm really mad that my, HOA has said XYZ about why I can't leave, cockroaches on the driveway. I love raising cockroaches.
So
this is
reasonable.
actually going to be the
Yes.
cockroach restoration bill. And so sometimes you're like, okay, is this legitimate? But you have constituent concerns that are ranged from positive to very niche. You have what I would say like your, bad corporate,
Yes.
or, maybe good, the Film Association or Ability Montana
Good
comes in and
intending.
says, hey, we want to see this for our group. So you have a lobbying side of things. And then you also have like legislators who have hobby horses.
Okay.
And they come in and they say, for example, like I'm doing some work this next session on dark sky policy.
Okay.
And I haven't had a constituent come up and say, Zooey, can you run dark sky policy stuff? I've had a lot of people come up to me and talk about conservation. I've had a lot of people on the Republican sides. I have, Republican supporters who have come and talked about like, I hate that things are doing XYZ. Montana used to be this. And I'm like, okay, we've got a space here. The parks could do, what if we looked at some of dark sky legislation? How would that affect our tourism industry? How would that affect sort of the people who are looking for a return, so to speak? I'll give you a return to nature. Yeah, sure. I'll give you that if you want to see the sky the way it was intended when we named this the Big Sky State. Hell yeah. And so that's where like you as a legislator are also saying, here's something I think would be good. And so it's driven from you. And those are kind of the three lanes. Neither are inherently right, and there's wickedness in all of them. We've seen legislators who come in with, hey, I worked in this industry and I think, I was at the forefront of AI and I'm seeing what it's doing and I want to get ahead of this. Or IP law. And then you've got some who are like, listen, we had one last session about cigar lounges and bars. And like the guy who's running it is like, he runs the cigar shops. And it's like, and then his like co-sponsor in the house like runs the bars. And it's like, really? It's like,
If it quacks like a duck.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, or we had someone out of Great Falls in 23. We had a family of Republican legislators who were landlords and who came, and the amount of policies they came that were like, we should really be able to like just boot out tenants so much faster. We should really be able to like say no to animals in, service animals in these ways and stuff. You figure out who's in there to try to line their pockets and who's trying to do good. But it's hard to say. I couldn't give you a breakdown, but because it comes so hot and fast.
Yeah.
But you know it when you see it. And,
Okay.
and you also can twist it a little bit. Like sometimes there's a good policy that someone snuck a bad thing in.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I don't know. Did this start as a bad policy that we fixed? Was it a good policy that some gross got in? And can we tweak it? And if you can't, is it worth it to kill it? Or do you say, that sucks that thing is in there. We can't unplug it. But on the net positive, and that's the hard part,
Wow.
But
Do you just love it?
yes and no.
You're just like, when you speak about it right now, you're animated, you're excited, you're giving it to us, and it just feels like you've got a passion for politics.
I think I care a lot about it. I think, it's hard being in that room. You spend a lot of time, particularly if you are from an impacted community. I think about, the members of the American Indian Caucus. I think about the LGBTQ folks in there, myself included. The Jewish rabbi who was in there, Ed Staffman, who recently stepped down to be a grandpa. You spend a lot of days in there in tears and begging for a shred of humanity from some folks. And I spent a lot of my first session in particular with, in tears, and then having people who had, would send me love and well wishes on the weekends, telling me like, hey, I'm so sorry that I had to take that vote that, that says, your people don't deserve a space. Or, and that was particularly true of trans people, but also I think about, watching my Native American colleagues who heard some of the most heinous things said about their community. And it's painful. But you also see, if you focus your energy in those 90 days and you are on, you can change the direction of the state and you can save lives. And so I think it's hard to say like, yeah, I love it. Because I do think there are people who love the game, who are like, listen, I love when I can change somebody's vote. I love when I can do X, Y, Z. I don't feel that way, but I do feel like this is such a deeply important work. It's simultaneously sacred and sacrilegious, sort of all in one. And I think you just care, when you care a lot about it, it's hard to approach it as sort of like, yeah, we show up and we pass bills and we do our best. Like, no, you have to.
You can't quite half-ass that job.
No, you really, well
that's,
yeah.
One would hope.
Yeah, one would hope, yes. One would hope if you half-ass it, you get a half-ass it once, and then they send you packet. So.
Tucked into the heart of Uptown Butte, hey, Katie Waitford, I'm proud of this one, is the place that understands the art of the evening.
Oh, that is a good one. I think I know what you're talking about.
Inside the landmark Hotel Finland, you'll find the Cavalier Lounge.
Oh, the Cav is one of my faves. The Hoperator system they've got is crazy. It's a beer infuser tower, and they like put all sorts of like fruit and herbs and all sorts of crazy stuff that like makes the beer cooler. And I've never seen that before, and I think it's like one of the only few in the US.
I think that's for sure.
That's crazy.
Yeah, pretty cool. And it's really cool to look at. I've been into grown-up mixed drinks lately, like the James Bond style drinks, Cavalier style drinks. And that's how you're going to see me in the Cav, James Bonding with my mismatched socks and like the best Manhattan that you'll ever get to drink.
And it's chill and legit loungy. It's my favorite place to get the night started or also finished. I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, or both.
Yeah, but a bit of both.
That's the Cavalier Lounge.
If you're here right now listening to this podcast, you love hearing the stories of Butte and how special this place really is.
And that, my friends, is the difference that you'll see at Engel and Volker's Real Estate. Trevor Bristol and Heather Choquette and their team really, truly value this community.
They just get it because they're born and raised right here in Butte and bring 20 years of real estate experience and a deep understanding of the neighborhoods we talk about on this show.
So whether you're buying, selling, or just dipping your toe into the real estate conversation, know that you'll be treated like a neighbor because, well, around here, that's exactly what you are.
Stop by and say hello at 116 West Granite Street in Uptown Butte, or give them a call at 406-565-4935. John, I have a sneaky suspicion that you're the type of guy who forgets about everything in the world the second you sit down on the couch after work. Am I right?
I'm not really sure what you're getting at here, sis, but I call that Steele's Furniture Magic, baby.
Yeah, I nailed it. I read you like a book, John Wick. We are proud to once again be supported by Steele's Furniture and Appliances. Located right in Uptown Butte, Steele's is where the magic happens.
Sofas and recliners, coziest beds, all the kitchen appliances that you could imagine. Those fridges, they're a flex.
Whether you're upgrading the old she shed, glamifying your living room, or just want a recliner that hugs you like Grandma Steele herself, Steele's Furniture has been serving Southwest Montana for 95 years.
Hey, how's that for having your back? And your backside, eh? Swing by 800 South Wyoming Street or check them out at steelsfurniture.com. Just tell Dan that we sent you.
Well, maybe tell Dan that I sent you.
Oh, thanks, Katie. Of All the Places podcast is supported by the Covalite Theater, Butte's nonprofit DIY event venue and uptown living room. The Covalite is located at 215 West Broadway.
Whether you're taking in a stage play or cabaret, joining a workshop, stepping up for open mic, hosting a private party, or grooving to live music, the Covalite is your new favorite hangout.
Weekly opportunities to stop by the Covalite are made possible by partnerships with Town Square Media, Ziply Fiber, and Clearwater Credit Union. Hey, Katie, let's tag team these events. Cool?
Yeah.
Tuesday nights are open mic nights.
Every Wednesday, there's a free movie on the big screen at 7 p.m. And then there are several other notable events and concerts coming right up.
And we couldn't be doing this ad without screaming from the mountaintops about the show on February 20th with Butte's own, wait for it, Desperate Electric and Bozeman's Still Gone. It's a good old-fashioned hometown throwdown,
We're
baby.
hyped. We haven't played the Covalite in, it will actually have been 2 years.
Dude, I'm
when we
geeked
do that show.
about
So I'm so hyped. I'm excited we can talk about it. Woo!
Stay tuned. Coming in April, the 9th through the 12th, is the Covalite International Film Festival.
And right after that, on Friday, May 1st, you can catch Magic Hunk's Girls Night Out at the Covalite. And then later on in May, check out The Waiting, a really rockin' Tom Petty tribute band.
So for more events, activities, and info, visit covalitepresents.org. Don't miss a chance to come out and play at the historic Covalite at 215 West Broadway in Uptown Butte. It feels heavy, even in the good times, though.
Yeah. I mean, people's lives are in the balance.
Yeah.
And I think this is a thing when I talk to folks about their frustration with politics, whether talking about sort of, why did a higher percentage of normal or higher percentage than normal of, young white men turn to the Republican Party in 2024? Or more broadly, why is the Democratic Party's, approval rating so low generally? And one of the things that I would turn to is like, well, the promise that the Republican Party, or Trump particularly, was trying to deliver on, or at least not deliver on, trying to promise, was things are broken. Things are so broken, and I'm going to burn this mother to the ground. And the frustration with I think there was a allure to that because people do feel broken. And then on the Dem side, the idea of like, listen, if Dems win, we will return to normalcy. And it's like, normalcy wasn't working, friend. Like,
It's kind of where I'm standing right
you gotta do something. Like, if you're watching the state of the world and sort of how the social contract is unraveling, thinking of the assassination of the legislators in Minnesota, thinking of like even the killing of the healthcare CEO.
All right.
Like I watch people go, oh, that's crazy. And it's so crazy that like there were people celebrating it. And I'm like, hold on, before you just go, whoa, that's crazy that this happened. What is it telling you about where the world's at right now? That the popular opinion was, well, healthcare, those devils up at the top anyway. And it's like, okay, hold up. Like something's deep, there's rot here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not in people's heart. Like the people's heart is the last thing to rot.
Mm-hmm.
The system's rotted before that. And so I think it's something you need to approach when you talk about it being heavy work, recognizing that there's so much at stake and you're trying to steer something that is so hard to turn and so hard to turn quickly.
Yeah, it's a cruise ship.
Yeah.
It's not a ski boat.
Yeah. And sometimes it feels like it's beached. And the question is, how do you approach that with a lightness?
Mm-hmm.
Because it will eat you alive if you again, if you have that long memory and say every bill that wasn't perfect, if that keeps you up for the rest of your life, you'll also just have one term because you'll have 1,800 reasons you failed.
Right.
And you just try your best. And so, yeah, it's heavy, heavy, heavy work, but it should be because people's lives are at stake.
It's worth it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, thank you for doing it. Let's just get that out of the
Yeah.
open
Oh my
because wow.
more people should do it.
I agree.
Yeah.
But that leads me to another question where how can the regular Montanan play a role or influence government?
Oh man. So there's, oh God. Okay. So
at one point, Zooey was just a regular old Montanan doing her thing.
Oh, I was.
And now you're doing this thing.
I'm doing this
So-
thing. Which thanks for letting me do this thing.
Yeah.
So one of the fun things, particularly about Montana, because like you sort of kept it in our space here, is if you are in New York, California, Texas, Florida, one of the big states with what I would say like substantial party infrastructure, is there's an expected path that you have to work your way up. When I'm going and giving speeches to other states, particularly like if I go to a blue state and, let's say I go to New York and I talk with their Dems, I often get the like blue state savior complex where they're like, what can New York state do for you, you poor Montanan
Just pat you on the top.
Democrat?
Of the
Like we have it
Yeah.
so great out here. I'm like, one, pass better laws, like be bold. But two, it's not surprising we have 2 trans reps out here in Montana, and myself and S.J. Howell, non-binary rep out of Missoula. And New York doesn't have any in their legislature. California doesn't. Washington State doesn't. Because there's such an established party infrastructure that they weed folks out, and it's a longer process to get through. The joy of Montana is that the line between I wish I could do something and I'm the person you turn to when you need that thing done is razor thin. So for me, I remember testifying at the legislature and feeling such a deep frustration between my lived experiences, the way I was being treated in that room, and the votes that came. Senator Regier was the chair of Judiciary in the Senate, I believe, in 21. And, we were hearing a bill on trans rights, and I'm testifying, and I know it's going to be hard. And I go up there, and he pauses everyone because there's like tired of people coming up one by one. And he's like, listen, y'all need to like form a line. And then he points at me and he goes, get behind this lady. And after she's done with her testimony, then you can go. And I'm like, okay. So Senator Regier's looking at me and he knows I'm a woman. I go testify and I'm like, hey, I'm Zooey Zephyr. I'm a trans woman. Hi, hello. Here's my testimony. And then in the debate section, he's like, well, we all know that these trans women are just men and they're gross and I hate them and, blah, 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 and pass the bill. And I'm like, bro, you just, you just talked to me. And so that frustration, I turned to my senator at the time and said, what do I do? And he was like, well, if you really want to run, do these 6 things. And then, come back to me when you've done that and we'll see if you're serious. And I did them and he was like, well, okay, shit. I guess what do you mean you did those in 3 weeks? I guess you're just, and then he sounds the alarm bells because really, honestly, in that room, we want folks. If you are good and you care, I'll be in your corner. Let's go. I want to see you in that space fighting. If you have that sense of urgency, if you're like the ship is burning and we need to do something, we need to do more and we need to do it now, we can use the reinforcements. We always can. And we can use it in every part of Montana. So I think that's recognizing that line is so thin and then just figuring out what is your best path to help. Because for some folks, it's, well, you know what? I should run. I could get in that room and I could help. Other times, talk to policymakers, whether they're in your city, talk to strangers. I told my mom when she asked about how to train, she's like, who should I call if I want to move the needle on trans rights? And I was like, just one heart at a time. So now my mom's someone who talks to every Uber driver and every coffee shop person and anyone who will listen at the beach. She's like, have you heard about my daughter? But have the conversations now. And if you want to talk to if you have a Republican representative and you want to talk to them in the off season. Talk to them when we're not in session, when the walls are down, when they're not going to have a caucus chair coming and saying, no, this is the party line on this. Because they get to decide the party line. That is fluid. And they fight over that in the primaries and in the interim and even on the floor. But when the walls are down now, so much of this work is about keeping the walls down, keeping people's walls down and planting the seeds of change. And so figure out where you need to plant those seeds, whether it's in your workspace, with your local politicians or in the legislature itself, and then go in there.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of it's more approachable than I anticipated, right? Even city government versus going into so here's how dumb I am, right? I just walked into the state capitol.
Beautiful.
That's it. That's all you did.
They just let you do that.
I know. I had no idea.
They just let you in.
We call it the people's house. So
it took more of an effort to get into my own high school than to walk into the state house.
Yeah. Well, it raises security concerns personally, but
no. That was the red flag that went off.
Yeah,
in a minute.
I have that red flag sometimes as well, but I think it's you accept that risk, and I think for us if you really wanted to, if you wanted my tack on really changing a heart, go to the Capitol. You said you just walk in, find out when a bill that you care about is going to be heard, go there, and then watch what people say about it, and then catch them in the hallway. Because legislators, we don't have there's no secret tunnel that they're escorting us down. We don't have security. I don't even have staff. It's us vibing. Yeah. And so when we walk out of the building, say, hey, representative, I really appreciated XYZ comment. I'm a citizen, I'm from so-and-so, I want to talk about blah. Can we set up a time to talk about blah? And, I would say 3/4 or more of the representatives will be so excited to get to do that because that's the job.
Plus it's a moment of humanity in the middle of it all.
Yeah. And also the walls are down. You're not, they're not getting beat up over a vote that they just took. They're not getting pressure. Hey, there's a vote coming on XYZ. Are you going to vote this way? I care about insert topic. Can we talk about that? I appreciated how you approached this thing. Pivot to the thing you want to talk about. Can we talk about this? And that'll get you pretty far.
When did you know you wanted to be a politician?
About the time I got elected.
I have no choice. Here we go.
For me, it was again the label came later. I think for me, it was the frustration of the legislature and feeling I watched people who, when a bill came about, trans folks, and someone had said, like, one of the people opposing the bill had said, hey, trans people are gonna flee this state. Trans people are gonna flee Montana. Parents and their children are gonna run away from the only state they've ever called home. And 2 Republican members of the House got up, walked up to each other behind a camera so they couldn't be seen, and they high-fived one another. And like, I remember the feelings of hearing about that and about seeing the thing I saw in the judiciary and in the House side, and thinking, okay, well, if they're not listening when you're on the outside, I'll get in there and I'll be in that room and I will change hearts and minds in that room. And then you run and you do all the work and you like gather the things that your constituents want you to work on. What do you want me to fight for? What do you want me to fight against? Like, where's the space here? And then you get elected, and then I think it sort of hits you in the swearing in and the first things like, oh, this is like, you're a politician now. And I think a lot of first time, like in your first session, a lot of people who were elected be like, listen, I'm not a politician. I'm from, my background is in da-da-da. And I'm like, I hate to break it to you. The moment you raised your hand and said, I swear upon the Montana Constitution, or swear to uphold the Montana Constitution, you're a politician now. And so that's, I think, like many electeds, it was sort of oh, that's right, I am this now. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I want to talk about 2023.
Yeah, good year.
It was an eventful year.
Certainly.
Can you kind of explain that for us? Give us the 30,000-foot view of kind of what happened. You got censured.
Yeah.
But from your perspective, just walk us through the timeline of what happened there.
We had a bill that came before the House attacking trans youth and their access to gender-affirming care. And, and we had a Republican Party who was all about parents' rights, we have parents' rights to raise our kids the way we want, parents' rights to do this, I don't want the government stepping between, a parent and their child. Oh, except if a parent wants to support their child who's trans. Then suddenly it's, no, screw that, government all the way, here comes big government. And so the disingenuousness of that stuck to me. And also it was like the 3rd or 4th time we'd heard that bill. Mm-hmm. And it came back after it did all of its horrible things. And I spoke against it in the committee and on the floor and on the Senate side. And then it came back with the governor's amendments. And the governor writes a cover page on his amendments for why he's changing things. And he changed the language to make it match another terrible bill that was defining, like it was like codifying a definition of male and female that every medical association said, no, that's wrong. That's not actually how this works. And he said, no, but I'm, Governor Gianforte, I can do what I want. And so he wrote his cover letter, and his cover letter was so cruel and hypocritical. It said that gender-affirming care was, or quote, Orwellian newspeak. And then so it said that, and it was saying all these heinous things about gender-affirming care, and then also saying like, but these kids deserve our love and respect. And I was like, he's got a non-binary kid.
Right.
Like the governor's got a non-binary kid. I had to like schedule a meeting with him to
remember that.
Try to convince the governor not to sign this bill. And then the governor does something like this. And so I stood up and I was like, I got to speak out against this again, which is what I do. It's what I was sent there by my constituents to do, is to speak out for or against bills on behalf of them. And I spoke out against it, and I called out how disingenuous it was. And I said, trans youth don't need your love and respect. They need the healthcare that keeps them alive. And I said, like, what we're doing is horrible, and I think that this body should feel ashamed of what it's doing. And the Republicans got up in arms, and the majority leader at the time stood up and said, this body will not be made to feel shame. And I was like, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's like, you don't have to agree with me, but like to come up and be like, how dare you tell us that what we're doing is shameful? It's like 2 weeks ago, I, watched a Republican colleague say that anyone who supported a women's right to choose were like satanic. And particularly like when like the Jewish rabbis came up and were like, here's how we feel about this. And this is why we actually support a woman's right to choose. He was like, these are satanic, baby killing ritualists. And I was like, that's nuts for me to like, one, go from that to me being like, we should feel shame. And then being like, never in our lives. And I'm like, okay.
We will not be feeling shame.
We will not be feeling shame, not in this house. And I was like, okay. And so I followed that with, we also do prayers, which is also a little bit, church and statey. But we do prayers at the opening of every floor session. And going from like, those were all sitting in my heart in that moment and feeling just disgusted by it. And so I closed my things. My closing line was, well, in that case, like if you're not going to feel shame, and I said, I hope the next time you bow your heads in prayer, you see the blood on your hands, because this bill's going to kill people. That's what, when you take life-saving care away from people, that's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And they flipped out, and the Speaker of the House decided that his solution to this was going to just be to ignore me. Every time I pressed the button to speak on a bill, he was just going to ignore me until I made a public apology.
And he can just do that? I mean, he did.
I was going to say, that's the rule of, if you're up on the seat and you've got the power, then apparently.
That's gross.
Yeah. And so we pushed back against it, and there's some lore in there too. He wanted that fight because he wanted to run for higher office and thought it was going to get him the thing and the spectacle. And he had colleagues on his side who were pushing back against him, saying, "Don't do this." But he didn't run for Congress, so it didn't work out, I don't think. But they decided they weren't going to acknowledge me. I was like, I'm going to keep pressing my button. I'm going to keep wanting to represent my constituents. My constituents and many Montanans showed up and protested. He had the police force, the riot police, waiting in the wings for a protest, because that was part of his thing as well. And so the moment a protest erupted and people started chanting, "Let her speak," he sent the riot police up there, and the riot police arrested a little over half dozen people, smacked some of them with clubs. There was some pretty gross stuff going on up there. And then as that protest was happening, I stood on the House floor with my microphone raised. And
did you see this picture of her? Oh my God, that's magic.
Well, I mean, you're trying to represent people, your mic's turned off, and then the people show up and start shouting, and then you watch police go up, and the first thing they do is they try to drag somebody out of the chair. They don't move, and then the cop lifts a billy club and just smacks them. And I was like, I can't do much right now other than raise the mic as sort of a show of support for them.
Was in that moment, was your heart breaking, or was your heart full?
Can it be both?
Yeah, it sure can.
I think you feel what is needed in the moment, what is reflected in the moment. And I think what I felt in the moment is so both a crumbling of democracy and people fighting for democracy. I watched, to me, there's nothing more fundamental to our republic than we elect people and they go and they say their piece. And they fight, and we hash out the ideas up there. And then there's nothing more ghastly than saying, no, these representatives don't get to speak. And also, the people who came to support them, we're going to send the police up there to beat them and arrest them. You're on a fast track to authoritarianism, that path. And I think, not to say that moment was prescient, but I think we've seen a desire from the leaders of their respective branches of government to utilize police force against citizens. Thinking of Trump sending ICE into cities, thinking of not just sending it into various spaces, but particularly targeting how are we going to try to silence dissent in blue cities? How are we going to weaponize guards against democratic institutions and democratic values? And so that moment was very poignant there. The speaker and his colleagues decided that in the act of raising my microphone, they called it inciting violence, and they they were going to vote to expel me, but then the Tennessee reps had just been expelled a couple weeks before for not something exactly similar, but for their own sort of stand for democracy. And then they were immediately reappointed back into the legislature. So the Republican leadership said, oh, if we expel her and kick her out, she'll be back in 6 days. We'll just tell her she has to go sit in the hallway. Actually, they told me I had to not be in the room, and then they gave me like a coat closet to go sit in. And I said, no, thank you. I'll have the bench out in the open. So I can actually see legislators as they walk by and do my job and talk to them. And that's what I did. And yeah, long story short, that was the fight for democracy in 23 that I felt felt important.
Since then, that's kind of become a flashpoint, right? That's what you're known for, I would say, like that kind of publicity and people. That was kind of your step into the spotlight.
I think that's particularly nationally. I'd been doing a lot of work in the state and had a lot of the connections around the state that you would expect from your representatives. But that certainly was, suddenly I'm meeting with Congress folks and they're asking questions and, going on talk shows and stuff and, providing commentary for new national news stations. And also nowadays, like I'm talking to Democratic caucuses in legislatures across the country saying, here is how you fight. Here is how you hold your values while getting wins. Because we went from that moment in 23, and I think people see that moment in 23 as, again, it's a big flashpoint, stepping into a spotlight. For me, that was a moment where I was doing what felt right by my constituents, by my heart, and by sort of my belief, my relentless optimism for America. And then I turn and say, hey, guess what that became in 2025? We had some crazy wins in 2025. In a year where the national vote was shifted to the right a bit. We picked up 10 seats in the Montana House, more than we'd picked up in 30 years. Single biggest gain of seats for Dems.
I didn't realize that. Cool.
Yeah,
Yep,
I didn't know
more than in 30 years.
amazing.
And so huge swing. And I'd say half of that was redistricting, because we've been one of the states to manage to keep a nonpartisan redistricting committee, whereas many states have been gerrymandered to hell. Ours is thankfully still neutral. Yeah, and then so thinking from 42 out of 100 seats, we wound up getting a bunch of wins. So going and talking to caucuses around the country saying, here's how we did that. Here's how you stand your values and actually springboard that into legislative wins.
And all of a sudden can you, I guess this is Alfreda's question, right? Can you feel your influence growing? Or are you just going to work every day?
It's strange. When I started my work as an activist, I had a co-activist, and we described our dynamic as she would kick the door down and I would convince you that you invited us in.
I love that.
And yeah, it's great. Listen, if you can have that, it is a great way to affect change. But I think what you find is that you're getting invited into spaces. But then the thing that you're combating now is like, yes, my influence has grown within the national party, ebbed and flowed. I've taken some strong stances that I think the Democratic National Committee would not be so pleased with. Free Palestine. But the other the other thing that happens is when you have a flashpoint moment like that, people want to make that moment your focal point.
Mm-hmm.
So people want to say, listen, this is Zooey Zephyr. She is going to talk to us about trans politics and why, having trans people in office matters. And yeah, and that's your lane. And don't get out of that lane, because if you come out here and you start talking about how you've fought back against landlords, and you start talking about God knows what healthcare policy, or you're, talking about infrastructure projects, like, don't you do that. That's not who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get both. You get influence and expectations, and the expectations create a lane. And so your job becomes, how do you move out of that lane and break the preconceptions that people have?
How do you?
Same way you change hearts and minds. You keep the walls down.
Yeah.
I think
It's so vulnerable. It's just a place of vulnerability.
Yeah,
It's
that's
hard.
yeah, it's deeply, deeply, deeply vulnerable. I remember coming into office, I was, friends were saying, like, what is your expectations? What are the things you're most nervous about? And I was like, I'm worried the Dems are going to tokenize me. Like, I'm worried I'm going to be, don't worry, we can't do wrong. We've got one, so to speak.
Yeah.
But what actually became the harder thing, and I alluded to this earlier, was Republicans use you as a confessional booth. Forgive me, Mother, I have sinned. I have hurt your community. I know these votes are bad, but I need this for my constituents. I need this for my political aspirations. Every single anti-trans bill, I had Republicans, multiple, after them, coming up to me apologizing. Every single one. So the question becomes, when you talk about vulnerability, how do you hold the line and not say, oh, don't worry, you are forgiven. Go, tip your local trans barista and we will forgive you, and you can go sin again, on next legislative session. So how do you hold that line while also making space to affect change? Because, if you're a trans person who's working a day job and you're thinking about going home to Thanksgiving and you don't want to talk to your shitty family, like your uncle's a piece of shit and you don't want to see him, you don't got to do that. You don't have to be there.
Mm-hmm.
But in office, you gotta. No single person knows that work, but collectively we owe that work. And those of us who signed up for it sure as hell owe that work. And so you do have to take that deeply vulnerable tack, and it just becomes a really delicate dance of creating space for a person to approach you, making sure they know that what they did was deeply painful, and that the path forward isn't ignoring this. It's to work to change, make it a vote they can take, so to speak.
We are supported by Alpha Overhead Doors. Nothing is more frustrating than when something that should just work all the time doesn't. Like your garage door.
Ugh, yeah. And I read that just the other day. Alpha Overhead Doors provides same-day garage door repair and installation. And that's kind of a big deal because, it's one of those essential everyday conveniences that we all need, and we take it all for granted, either at work or home.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And Alpha Overhead Doors started in Billings 30 years ago and have expanded to Missoula. And 4 years ago, they landed right here in Butte. And the coolest part is they're run by a Butte native.
Very cool. For work that is consistent to community and client-focused core values, contact Alpha Overhead Doors. Visit their locations in Billings, Missoula, and on Montana Street here in Butte, and online at www.alphaoverhead.com. All right, folks, let's talk about one of the best spots in Uptown to kick back, grab a cold drink, and catch the Packer game. I'm talking about, if you don't already know it, Metal Sports Bar and Grill.
Oh, 100%. Metals is my go-to when I'm looking for a solid meal, quick and easy, or when I'm checking out the Wednesday ramen night. It is definitely not that good old brick of ramen we all know and love from our dorm days.
The old college times.
It's money.
Yeah, their ramen is phenomenal. Most recently, I had the banh mi sandwich. Chef's kiss.
Yeah, it is not your typical chicken fingers and deep fried everything bar menu, although that stuff's good too.
That's dynamite too. But the classic Ray's fingers, that's your deep fried goodness right there. Pair that with some waffle fries and dangerous good.
Yeah, that's one of my go-tos. Fresh salads, wraps, flatbread pizzas, the poke bowl. Oh, that's Ben's favorite. And the drinks. Well, those are my kryptonite.
It is game on with Dave, Chef T, and the crew at Metal Sports Bar and Grill. So next time you're uptown and visiting Butte, head on over to Metal Sports Bar and Grill at 8 West Park Street. We'll see you there.
We're supported by Trademark Elite Electric. Whether it's residential, commercial, industrial, a cabin, a chandelier, a dam, or a warehouse, whatever it is, they've got you covered.
Did you say dam? Like a water dam?
Damn.
Good one, Katie. Folks, trust me. We've had a lot of work done by Trademark Elite at 5518. And that building is like 150 years old. So honestly, I'm surprised they even answer my calls anymore. I do my best to get them into some wild little projects.
And that's where their experience kicks in. You give them a call and you know you're getting a professional with the tools, talent, and know-how to get you out of John Wick-sized shenanigans.
So if there's one takeaway from this season 3 of the podcast, it's this. Don't DIY yourself into a blackout. Call Ty and the crew at Trademark Elite Electric and let their 30 years of combined experience power your next project.
That's Trademark Elite Electric at 406-533-9733 or visit them online at trademark-elite.com.
We are supported by Casa Grande's Steakhouse. My goodness, you can't beat that hand-cut Rocky Mountain beef with that perfect amount of signature Casa Grande seasoning. Just let me dive into one of those petite fillets. You got to go medium rare with that, Katie. It's literally a religious experience. What's your go-to meal at Casa Grande's?
The Arts spicy cream sauce pasta. That is like crack. I'm totally obsessed.
Like I said, religious experience. But I mean, the whole menu is truly off the charts. I'm talking made-to-order pastas, chicken, seafood, of course. We can't say Casa Grande Steakhouse without sushi night. If you miss that, you're straight up missing out. Every Thursday, sushi night. Thank us later for that. Casa Grande Steakhouse, you'll literally never be disappointed.
And you'll never leave hungry.
For sure. You should actually just order a to-go box with your meal. Casa Grande's is located inside the historic Bertoglio building at 801 South Utah Avenue in Uptown Butte. Casa Grande Steakhouse, where you'll always be welcomed as a part of the family.
Well, like an apology without action is just manipulation. I think if you're going to apologize but keep doing the same thing, that's not an apology.
I don't know if I'd say manipulation, guilt at least, though.
Yeah.
I think, and I think there's a wonderful Republican woman out of Billings I'm good friends with, Sherry Essman, who disagree with her on a lot of policy. But I remember when she was talking to me about trans issues, she said that she balances 3 things as a representative. And I think this is a phenomenal way to approach being a representative. She said, I balance my conscience, my constituents, and my caucus. And every time I go press the button, it says it looks like it's 100-way one or 100-way another, but she's got 3 things she's balancing. This is a caucus priority. And if you've got bills you want through, like sometimes you have to make sure that you're not like flipping the boat on your caucus 24/7, because then they'll flip the boat on you, because it's a game of Survivor. It's the infighty, petty crap sometimes. But so you have that on the caucus side of things. Your constituents are coming saying, do this, don't do that, don't do that. And then your conscience knows something is right or wrong. And she would say, when it comes to the relentless attacks we're seeing on LGBTQ folks, my conscience knows that we used to be a live and let live state. This isn't how it should be. My constituents, by and large, want this stuff. And my caucus is, feral on it. And so the question becomes, how do you acknowledge that reality? Because that's her reality. She's not spinning me BS. And then how do you say, okay, well, the conscience needs to be louder. The caucus needs to be quieter. And your constituents, who maybe you've got folks who have given up on you, who don't believe the things that you think you're hearing from your constituents, but they're like, Republican rep, not worth reaching out to unless I'm going to go send them a big FU.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get in there and say, no, your constituents don't actually want this? You know, all the national polling says that actually LGBTQ issues are deeply low on the Republican. You know, if you go out and you're talking to the farmers out in eastern Montana who are getting hosed right now, the Trump administration, they're not like, listen, life's real tough for us right now, but at least the Legitimaquas are not getting, you know, we're really coming after them. It's like, we can't put food on the table. Like, and so making sure that you're working on those dials so that the good policies can get through. And that is deeply vulnerable work because people are approaching it with genuineness by and large.
Which is like really reassuring and inspiring to hear that people, you know, across party lines are taking that approach and like continuing to fight this fight and every political fight that's happening and will happen from a place of like genuineness and love and care, because so much of what's out there is the complete opposite.
Yeah, and I think you watch the things bubble to the surface in the news, and you know, particularly nationally, where there's so much. I mean, so many people are just like beholden to, you know, if you want to win a campaign seat or if you want to win your congressional seat, if you want to win your congressional seat, the amount of money needed is going to like, we'll need donors. And if you're not one of the people who can get, you know, multi-millions from grassroots campaigning, then suddenly you're working with this strategist firm and this lobbying firm. And next thing you know, like, they wanted to blow up an issue this way or that way, or your Republican committee is going to, national committee is going to say, listen, we got to attack, you know, this minority group. And the Dems are going to say, well, we have to only focus on this. Like, don't say the word environmentalism, like, you know, whatever the tack is, you find, I think people see that in the news and it's like, oh man, this shit is broken. And they're not wrong.
Yeah.
Like, it's broken.
Yeah.
But when you get down to the state level, there are plenty of bad actors. But the majority of folks are genuine actors. Like, I would say at least 3/4 of the folks who are running are there, I think, for good reasons.
Good.
And that is ground where you can plant the seeds of change. So
I've always said in the past, just kind of like processing politics and all of the shenanigans of it all, that at the end of the day, and this is an oversimplification, obviously, but at the end of the day, we all want a better world to live in, no matter what side that you're on. It's just the means of getting there and how we go about that. What's your take on that?
And when you say like, we all want a better world, again, this is the question of when I talked about the housing, like, oh, this big company shouldn't come swoop in the housing. Yeah, what does that look like in policy?
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think when we say we all want a better world, you know, I think you know, generally you'd say, well, we want our kids to have more opportunities than we have. We want a sense of economic stability. We want, you know, this, that, and the other. But once you get out of that sort of generalities, you know, there are people for whom, you know, a better world means more Christians.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's not what a better world looks like for me. The amount of what percentage of folks are following what religion is entirely uncoupled in my view, of a good or bad world.
Right.
Like, I think about good worlds and bad worlds as a government, are we making sure, first and foremost, health and safety of communities? And I think that's being deeply targeted right now with attacks on vaccines and stuff like that. But how do we ensure that sort of the system we've set up to sort of provide health healthcare and general care to our communities? How do we providing safety? And then like once you get past those bubbles, it's like, are we giving people the means to make free choices about who they want to be?
Right.
And like that can be something like, universal health care. That can be something like universal basic income. That could be something like making sure the government can't come in and tell you how to run, your shop or your doctor's office or whatnot. But pen to paper on policy, it's tricky, And I think you probably saw this on any group project you've ever done in school. You're like, so we know what the goal is, and then we're all gonna write the goal down and then show it to each other, and then you write, the 10 different sentences because you all had the vision, but once you get it to paper, it gets real ugly real fast.
Yeah. What are you doing lately to get out of it?
Painting.
You're painting.
Yeah. I paint. I love painting. I started it a couple years ago. My son got into miniatures. And so I was like, well, he was 8 at the time. And I was like, well, he's not going to be, painting a ton at 8. So I'll sit and I'll learn. So maybe I can teach him and we can walk through things. And then I just fell in love with it. You can finish a painting. It's like
or not. I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, right? But it's your decision. The joke I always make is like politics is this deeply unfinishable thing. It is every win. You killed a bill you wanted to kill. You passed a bill you wanted to kill. Pump your fists, yes. And then the rostrum is going to read, the next bill up is this. And you're like, oh, I got to go again.
1,799.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I took care of Bill 842, and then after that, it gets ugly.
Yeah.
But a painting you finish, and I would say the governor can't veto a painting. And then on the flip side, like you're not going to finish a painting, and then an activist isn't going to come around the corner and go, did you know there are 10,000 unpainted canvases? And I see you smiling, and you should really be thinking about the other 10,000 unpainted canvases. You've never worked with oil. What are you talking about? It's like you just get to do your thing.
Yeah.
And like that, those people are necessary. Like you need a governor to say no to some things, and you need, activists to push the envelope. But when you face that unfinishable nature of politics, you also need something that is just finishable. So I do a lot of painting. And I'm also a big video game nerd, so I'm playing a lot of that. Just finished Expedition 33, Video Game of the Year for 25. So
what a great escape.
Yeah.
Both of those.
Yeah, it was great. Well, Expedition 33 was deeply tragic and so sad, a lot of tears. But the painting is very joyous.
That's great.
Yeah.
And you just recently celebrated an anniversary.
Yes, I
Congratulations.
did. Thank you.
This-
1 year married to my lovely partner, Erin Reed, a fantastic
Congrats.
journalist, out doing her best work out there in DC. And she is, top 20 Substacker right now.
Oh, that's
So,
amazing.
yeah, kicking butt.
Oh my gosh. Well, congrats to both of you
Thank
on the
you.
anniversary and the good work.
It was incredible. We were reflecting back on everything from the first year, and it was like, the list of joys was almost too much to name.
Good.
We feel very blessed in that regard.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And I think like any true Montanan, topping our list was a trip to Glacier, where we,
Favorite spot.
yes, when Erin and I started dating, I got to take her to Glacier for her first time.
Oh,
And that moment that you sort of round the bend heading off the highway, into Glacier on, was it 2? On 2. I could bottle that experience. And we actually, this year, we took 5 friends up there for their first trips to Glacier.
oh, cool.
And I want to do that. I want to just like rotate new groups of people into Glacier so I can just keep getting the going to the Sun Road experience for folks. And
Gosh,
because we got it special out here.
Yeah.
I feel that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Montana is just a special place in general.
For sure. That's home for me. It's why I came back. So
For one last, I've got a couple weird questions for you.
yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Um,
I don't know what he's about to say. I didn't vet these.
I didn't vet these.
I'm not sure that I have quite yet either.
Great.
Do you remember when we met up at that the disability? It was real brief. So
In Helena?
in Helena,
The
in the
dinner?
lobby, there was like things up there.
like the luncheon thing. Yep.
And you said something in passing that I think I need to remind you of.
Oh, great.
Uh,
So true politician. I said something in passing that I have no
no,
recollection
you
of.
took a picture of my shirt because I did a kind of a riff on the Hamilton Star
Yeah,
with a wheelchair user
Yeah.
on the top of a ramp.
yeah.
And this is what you said, and I'll never forget it, Zooey. You said, I'm going to text this over to Lynn. And I said to myself, and I didn't say this to you. This is just all going on like, did you just say Lynn, like the Lynn?
Yeah.
I'm like, I couldn't wrap my mind around that. Please tell me that was true.
Yes.
You can just text him whatever?
So no, it routes through someone else.
No, I'm
So
sure,
I'm
yeah.
not texting Lynn directly.
This is my
but,
6 degrees of separation's gotten
But
real close.
so it was. I was blessed. I'm friends with Maxwell Frost. He's a congressman, a young Gen Z congressman out of Orlando, youngest member of Congress currently, and did an event with him down there. He does a music festival, political sort of. Signing people up to register to vote, raising funds for local nonprofits, LGBTQ nonprofits, reproductive rights nonprofits, etc. And I was down speaking at his rally and doing that. And I also went to a Latino Victory event down in Orlando that Lynn was a part of. And so he and I got to connect through that. And then he came and spoke at the event as well. And it was a hoot. And also deeply embarrassing because I met Lynn at the Latino Victory event, and it was very professional. And we were talking about I'm really grateful for your work and all you've done for, theater and the causes done in Puerto Rico, and also the work he's doing to help get Latino candidates elected across the country. Incredible. And so as someone who deeply loves musical theater and wants to see more people in politics, hell yes. Love his work there. And so very professional. We then go to this event and they're like a local high school is singing a medley of songs that he's written from, Hamilton to In the Heights and whatnot. And the Hamilton portion comes on and everyone is raving and cheering and vibing and off it goes. And then In the Heights comes on and the crowd is much quieter. It's not as popular. And it's like Nina's big song. And I'm just belting and
nice.
going crazy and singing right along with it, having a blast. Even like the Spanish lyrics, and I don't speak a lick of Spanish, but I've listened to the song enough to be like I can go along. And I suddenly give one of those long notes, and I look up towards the stage, and there, backstage, stage left, Lynn is just looking at me. Shaking his head. And so he finishes his thing. He gets off the stage because we're all sort of having our wrap-up conversation. He's like, "You little liar. You played it so cool at Latino Victory. And it turns out you're a musical theater nerd." And I was like, yeah, you got me. I was guilty. But no, absolute gentleman. So.
Oh, that was just so funny because I'm I know you just said it in passing, and I was like, whoa, and then everything I got caught up. I'm like, I better if I get to chat with her again.
Yeah.
But the other question, I want you to dream with me for just a quick hot second.
My favorite thing.
What does the world look like in 100 years? And your sphere of influence, what you're doing now, what is that going to lead to in, say, 100 years from now? What are your hopes for the world and the work that you're doing?
Man, that's a really good question. I think it goes back to what I mentioned at the beginning about if I left it all behind now, would it be enough? I've got a 10-year-old. I'm signed up to run again and I'm going to run again. But if I turned and said, I'm done, I want to fade into obscurity, would the work I have done been enough? Would the moment in 2023 and the hope it provided, will it have kept enough people alive through what was a really hard year? Particularly in my community. Will I have steered the ship slightly for Montana politics? I think about that more than I think about 100 years from now. But if we grant ourselves the
time traveling.
the luxury. You know, I think in a lovely world, maybe I'm forgotten. I think in a lovely world, at best a footnote of a moment in time where things were scarier than they are 100 years from now. Kind of the way you look back and you think of history that gets wrapped up as flashpoints here and there, but so much of it is like, and so-and-so fought down in their place. If you look in the local history books or go to the local thing, maybe there's a thing on you. But I think for me, if I really let myself dream, that there is a freedom of movement, a freedom of expression, and a freedom of pursuit. I think we didn't get a real 60 minutes. I didn't get much time to really dive into it. But like the impact right now, the negative impact that nation states are often having on their citizens, the negative impact that corporations are having on those citizens. And don't get me started on why we should treat corporations more like hostile nations living within your borders than something that they attest to be. But I think when I think about freedom of movement of people, is I want people to be able to go from the places they were born to new places freely, cheaply, frequently, and experience different cultures and ways of being. I think that's deeply important. And whether 100 years from now that's limited to the earth or not, time will only tell.
That's true.
Elon needs to spend less time hating his daughter, and yeah. Well, you can't count on a billionaire to do that. And then when I talk about freedom of expression, I want people to be able to be who they are, surprise, surprise, and sort of be able to carry that with them in all of the places that they travel. And then freedom of pursuit. I think so much of the pain right now is how deeply unaffordable things are. We always talk about hunger in the world. And it's like, well, if we really put our resources to it, we could probably solve that. There's more homes sitting empty than there are homeless folks. Like there's a path here. And now thinking really about like artificial intelligence and, the way every company is trying to use it to pump up quarterly profits. And, you've got NVIDIA playing the world's largest shell game. Saying, don't worry, this isn't a bubble. We're not Enron. You've heard 1,000 times. But I dream of people being able to pursue the things that they want to pursue. My mom wanting to garden and could have, she gardens now in retirement and it's joyous, but I wish she could have chased whatever it was that she wanted to chase, the work, the relaxation. I think of partners in the past who dreamt of being artists and were crushed by 9-to-5s. And not to out myself as a lefty, but I think of...
Wait, really?
I know, crazy, right? I didn't even get into that. But I think, I'm going to misquote, I think Marx, so of each according to their need and from each according to their ability, is sort of that, ideal of like leftist communism, socialism, etc. But the idea that we give, and whatever you think about a political approach to the world, and what communism's failings have been as people try to bastardize every system of government. We see bastards in capitalism and bastards in communism, and farther you get away from your heart.
Right.
But to each according to their need, that we would have a world 100 years from now where whatever wealth means, whatever's being generated, is given to those who need it without wondering who would steal, who would take advantage. Because in the end, if someone takes advantage but you can save people, we play that game in politics. Someone's taking advantage, sliding something crappy into a bill, but we know this will save lives. I'd hope that we could give to each according to their need. And I hope from each according to their ability that those who love to work the earth would get to work the earth. Not because it's the only thing that is going to keep food on their family's table, but because there is joy in working the earth. Because there is joy in that aspect of production and livelihood. And that those who would want to pursue art could. And that those who wanted to, sit and do nothing, cheers to them. But to your ability. And I think if people have the ability and the freedom, that's what I'd want to see. What a dream to point towards. Aspirational, knowing full well that in 100 years from now, the fights will be echoes of our fights, because they always are. And we think about that looking to Weimar, Germany, looking to the moments before World War II. That's 90 years ago, and yet is also a deep reflection of the body politic we're in, the isolationism, the disdain towards the others. We've seen it both then in that moment. You had anti-Muslim sentiment, you had anti-Jewish sentiment, you had anti-LGBTQ sentiment, and countries sort of running towards isolationism and authoritarianism. So I have no doubts that in 100 years the world will be better than it is, and that the world will also be fighting echoes, because that's what we do. But I can dream, and those are my dreams.
We all can dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the best part.
Woo.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We didn't get to talk about Billings at all. We didn't
I
get to
know.
talk about rodeo
We're gonna have
or
to have you back.
Oh my
sometime.
sports, like all the things. I'm so ready.
We'll have you back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next
Yeah,
time you
maybe-
drive through, just shoot me a little text.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You should have me with my wife. That'd be a hoot.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Let's
Let's
plan
talk
on
about the
that.
state of American journalism.
Oh boy, that's
So-
worth a couple episodes.
Yeah,
right
we can
there.
get into that for sure.
No, that'd be great. Thanks for sitting with. Like, I know you're busy and you've got a lot of things pulling you in different directions.
This fills my cup.
But-
This is what a joy to get to be here with you too.
Yeah, it was great to meet you, and look forward to the next time you're sitting on the zebra couch.
Absolutely. I love it.
That's the best.
Thanks,
thank you
Shel.
so
Yeah,
much.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Of all the places, of all the places.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. And thank you to our guest, state legislator, painter, and changer of hearts and minds, Zooey Zephyr. If you're a fan of the show, please tell a friend. That's the easiest way to support this podcast and any others you listen to. Please don't forget to hit the follow and subscribe button on your favorite podcast app or on YouTube, and be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram. Of All the Places is produced by Morris Mountain Productions in partnership with 5518 Designs. Our theme song is made specifically for the show by Walkerville's own power disco duo, Desperate Electric. For Ben and John, this is Katie. Thanks so much for listening to Season 3 of All the Places podcast.